Welcome to the Working Without Waste podcast, powered by ERC Midwest. I'm Mike Malatesta, your host, and one of the leaders here at ERC Midwest. Our guest today is Jason Byer. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here.
So Jason oversees marketing and partnerships for Crowdspring, a Chicago-based branding company that helps businesses, agencies, and nonprofits of any size start, run, and grow their business through great design and naming. Crowdspring dramatically simplifies the design process by handling the complexity so that you can focus on getting great results. Crowdspring was started to address a fundamental problem with the design process. Most clients had little choice, and most designers had few opportunities to find clients. Since launching in 2008, Crowdspring has helped to democratize, I love that word, design around the world. Over 220,000 Crowdspring creators from 195 countries have helped more than 60,000 of the world's best entrepreneurs, small businesses, startups, agencies, and nonprofits with logo design, web design, graphic design, product design, and naming. And in addition today to learning more about how Crowdspring works and the benefits it can provide businesses of all sizes, Jason will also be sharing details on a free special brand review offer that Crowdspring is making available to ERC Midwest clients and Working Without Waste listeners. So, Jason, before we get started, I just want to say, let everybody know, and I sort of told you a little bit about this already, but
right.
we have had personal experience with using Crowdspring. We've used it on two projects so far. One was to design a cover for an ebook that we wrote called The Life Cycle of Wastewater. And that, so we were, it was kind of funny because we kind of put this thing together and we were going to push this thing out. And I was looking at the cover that we could produce ourselves in-house. And we were like, nah, it just doesn't do it. So we found Crowdspring. And we put our project out on Crowdspring, and we got tremendous creative offers back from designers from everywhere. I don't even know where they all came from. And ultimately, we selected one for our book, and it was fabulous. It was awesome, and the designer was great to work with last-minute tweaks and all that. So that was our first great experience with Crowdspring. That experience was so great that I'm in the process of changing my podcast branding for my personal podcast, which is called How'd It Happen Podcast. I went back to Crowdspring because of the experience, and I just last week selected the final design that will become the brand and face of my new podcast. Again, excellent experience, great design options. Maybe too many options. Sometimes my brain was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, and a designer from Argentina was the one that I selected. So it's a really cool thing that Crowdspring is doing. And as I said, having a personal experience, we thought we wanted to bring that story to the listeners. So I know this podcast isn't about me, but I just made it about me for a little bit. So Jason, let's make it about you now. By the way, one last thing. If you want to learn more about Crowdspring's story, check out a podcast that I did with the co-founder, Ross Kimborofsky. That's episode 136 of the How'd It Happen podcast, which you can find anywhere on Apple or Stitcher or wherever. And you'll learn all about how Crowdspring got started, what the idea was, what the problem they set out to solve was, and and some of the success that the company's had, which has been dramatic. So, Jason, when's the right time for a business to focus on branding?
It's really right away. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and so there's always things, we're busy in our businesses. And so there's always something that appears more pressing. But if you only get one chance to make a first impression, how many first impressions do you want to let go by before you start to look at your branding and your visual branding, because it's impacting your ability to close clients or charge more for your clients. And so what you really want to do is you want to focus as early as possible and take a moment to think about what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are those opportunities. This is the standard SWOT analysis. And think about, is your brand identity, is your visual branding communicating your strengths and doing it in a way that is creating a first impression that you can build on, instead of creating a first impression that now you have to, throughout your conversations with clients, try to overcome, try to improve. You want to start from a position of a very strong brand, communicating what you do best.
So we described you as oversee marketing and partnerships. Tell me about your role at Crowdspring and what got you involved in the company in the first place.
Absolutely. So I've been working with Ross for about 5 years now. Ross is the co-founder you mentioned for the other episode. And it's been a great experience to be able to grow the brand and to find different ways to do it in a way that's profitable. One thing that we set out to do with Crowdspring is to make a profitable business. And to do that, you've got to be smart with your marketing and your partnerships. And so I think it's been a nice opportunity and challenge to work closely with Ross. And we've been working remotely for a while. I traveled the country for a little while before deciding that, I wanted to move to Cody, Wyoming. So now I live right outside of Yellowstone's East Gate. And it's one of Ross's favorite states, Wyoming. So he's excited I'm here. But so it's great to work with Ross. It's great with Crowdspring. And so, one thing I wanted to follow up with you on before we kind of dive in is to congratulate you on the project and having the insight that I think is very difficult for us to decide that you can do it yourself, but that you shouldn't. Right? That you're really good at one aspect of your business or multiple aspects of your business. And design is one where maybe you could do an 80% job, but the difference between 80% and 100% could be many multiples of clients, right? And so having that insight, I think is we see this regularly, because a lot of times, who we're competing against it's either not taking action or it's taking action internally. And the problem there is that you're not going to have that. We're not creatives. I'm not, so we need to outsource that to the folks that are. I think the perfect example is I'm getting ready to build a house here in Wyoming, and I'm handy and I like to work outside. And so I have to decide, what should I do and what should I pass off, right? What should a subcontractor do?
Yeah,
and
sure.
So my wife is continuously asking me, you're not touching the foundation of the framing, right? And so I got to reassure her, no. And your logo, your brand identity, your branding that we're going to talk about here, that's your foundation. It's the foundation for your business. And so I just wanted to say that's a challenge that we see on our side, is helping people understand, like, yes, you might be able to do this. You might even have a marketing team that's competent to design, but there's a lot of benefits to having somebody augment that team or your own ideas.
Can I just jump in there for a second, because you reminded me of something that Ross said when I talked with him. The democratization, which I used in the introduction, is huge here, and I want people to understand that now, because in addition to the things you mentioned, cost becomes an obstacle to a lot of people when it comes to thinking about a rebrand or looking at upgrading their brand identity or their design, because in the traditional model, you had a very tough selection process, to find a firm that you trusted to do it. Then there's, often a substantial expense to it. And then finally, you are only getting designs out of the minds of the people in that firm. And so if you get to the end, and I know Ross shared this, you get to the end of the process and you, let's say none of the designs resonate with you, and you're like,
right.
So the fear of that is a big obstacle. So you don't want to put a lot of money and attention and time into something and then not get the result you want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so I guess just to expand on that, I mean, so this idea of democratizing design, the idea was not that you had to go to an agency and spend them, or we didn't want you to have to go to an agency and spend thousands of dollars on design. We also didn't want you to have to rely on one person, where you work with them and single people can only come up with so many different unique designs, right? It's a limitation for all of us, no matter how creative we are. There's a limit. And so what we wanted to do was say, okay, well, it's fine. If you can only come up with 5 ideas, that's all we need, because we have 200,000 graphic designers on our platform and dozens are going to be submitting ideas to your project. And so it gives you a lot of different ideas where you provide the direction based on your brand and what you're looking for, and leave the best practices within design to the creatives who do that best. And we don't limit. So we have a very strong vetting process for all of our creatives. Just because you can go to Crowdspring and you can try to join right now as a creative, and you go into a wait list, and we do manual reviews with our customer support team, because we want everybody on our platform in every category. So we have 30 categories of branding and design, and you're approved specifically for each of those categories based on your work. And then we provide a very sophisticated reputation score, because we consistently want to make sure that you're staying at that level or you're improving. And so we're regularly, removing creatives that fail to follow the rules. And so we want a platform where it is a lot of high quality design, but we don't care where in the world they are at. So we don't care where they're at. We don't care how much experience they have. We let their designs and their hunger drive the designs that they submit, right? And so I think one of the great examples, we work with over 65,000 businesses in the past 12 years. So a lot of small businesses, a lot of large businesses, but not consumer facing, that you wouldn't know. A lot of businesses we can't talk about because we have a very strict non-disclosure agreement for folks that want to have a private project. And so, we have that protection. Ross was an intellectual property attorney for 13 years before Crowdspring. So we've baked that right into our platform with, strong contracts, strong privacy protections, strong intellectual property. And so a couple of projects that we've had, though, have been quite large. We've had LG design a phone with us through a product design project. We had the Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban submitted a project to redesign the Dallas Mavericks logo. These unique opportunities for the creatives are part of this democratization of design, because you don't have to belong to a huge agency in order to be able to have access as a designer to some of these very well-known or upcoming companies. So it's fun or it's unique on both sides, democratizing design for the creatives as well as for the businesses to be able to get a lot of different ideas.
So can you, I guess I know that if I were listening, I'd be thinking, like, how do you put this network together? I mean, you talked about the vetting process, but how do you get the word out to designers, I guess, in the first place? You explained how you vet them, but then how do clients engage with them? What's in it for everybody, I guess? What's in it for the designer? What's in it for the client, besides some of the things we mentioned? Yeah.
So it is a challenge building these marketplace businesses, where you have two sides. You have the creatives and you have the clients who are looking for the design. I mean, ultimately, this was Ross's story. This didn't exist when he was trying to create the brand for his law firm, and he was on the client-facing side and needed access to designers, and the only options were to go through, agencies or individual freelancers, which are not ideal for a variety of reasons, either cost or quality or options. And so, look at 12 years now, we've got a lot of momentum building the business, because after 12 years, you don't have the same challenges with both sides of the marketplace. We're found organically and through referrals. So we spend an awful lot of time creating very strong content on our blog. So if anybody wants to read a little bit more about brand identity, we have a 22,000 word guide on brand identity. It's very comprehensive. It's talking about colors and tone and visual design. That's at crowdspring.com/blog/brand-identity. And so that's a very detailed guide on brand identity. And so we spend an awful lot of time educating on what strong design, strong branding looks like. And so a lot of our clients are found through those channels, but also repeat clients and referrals. So, we work very hard to have a very a strong first impression, which is very key to the conversation around branding. But it's the first impression with the entire product, right? And so the customer support, 7-day real customer support, where you actually talk to a person, either through email or chat or phone. And the process, we've really fine-tuned this process of submitting the creative work on both the client and the creative side. So a lot of our businesses referred back to us, or repeat clients, just like yourself, who launch multiple projects, because the need for design doesn't go away. You get the first one that is just screaming to be taken care of, the outdated logo or the book cover that you need for the launch. But then you realize 2 months later that, I really need, to replace the stock images I have on my website. I should think about, because that's not building trust, with my clients, and it's not telling my story correctly. I should update those, right? So there's always a need for good quality design. And I think it's important to mention that, we've really perfected this process over 12 years, but if something does happen, if something goes wrong, we have a 100% money back guarantee. And that includes everything. That's Crowdspring's fees. That's everything. So it's really, when you talk about, this platform and what's in it for everybody, it de-risks the interaction, right? And so you have, on the client side, what are the fears? The fears are, am I going to get strong designs? Am I going to get them on time? And am I going to get custom designs that are unique and not just, stuff that I could put together myself or find for free somewhere? Those are the client facing fears, and they're covered through their guarantee. What are the fears for the creatives? The fears for the creatives are, is the client actually going to pay? Are they just going to disappear? Am I going to do all of this work and then they just abandon the project, if I'm working with them directly? And so there's all of these, what if they have questions on either side? How do they resolve those? So Crowdspring sits in the middle and has built up a reputation over 12 years of being able to successfully move, these projects from 65,000 companies.
So how does somebody that wants to, I know what our experience was, but how does someone who wants to work with Crowdspring, what do they have to bring to the table in order to get a project started the right way? And what resources are available to help them if they're not sure what exactly they want, Jason?
Absolutely. So if they're not sure what they want, we would direct you to the content that we're creating on the blog. And we segment this based on different areas. So if you're focusing on design, we've got all of our articles under design. If you're launching a new business, we have articles specific about, the challenges with branding and design for a new business. And so the first step is to understand, well, what do I need? What is hindering my growth? Is it the logo? Is it the stock looking website or the graphics? So once you have an understanding of what you're looking for in terms of the actual design or name, then you want to understand your business, right? So you understand your business the best. And so we want to provide that information to the creatives in as much detail as possible. So over 12 years, we've perfected what's called a creative brief. And you do this online, you start the project. This is not something you have to reach out to a support team or a sales team. It's very self-directed. So you create a creative brief, and we ask a series of questions. There's not that many. We've perfected what we know is the minimum number, so you don't have to put too much, and you can always add more context if you have it. But we're going to ask you questions about your business, what makes you unique, who your competitors are, some things that are fairly basic, but some businesses may need to sit down and take a step back and think, okay, what is, what makes my business a little bit more unique? What are my service offerings? Who are my clients? Kind of give us some demographic information on the clients. And the creatives take all of that and apply best practices and standards for design and create these custom designs for you. And so, a perfect example is within the colors. So you and I might not know or care what colors we use. We may have one color that we say, just stay away from this. We don't like the color pink, sure. But we don't really care. We want a color that resonates. And so if you're providing our creatives with your industry and talking about what you do, our creatives intuitively know what colors are going to resonate best. So for example, if you're in the finance industry, you're looking at greens and blues because blues create the trust. Green shows, wealth and growth. These are the colors that you're going to want to use for those. If you're in a different industry, you might want something with more contrast, maybe black and yellow for, standing out from the crowd. And so that's just on the color side. And that's what our creatives use from that creative brief is to understand. You don't have to tell us what colors you want to use. You can just tell us your industry and we're going to know what to create. So it's a very simple creative brief. If you ever get into a struggle with coming up with the information, you can always reach out to our customer support team and they can help. But it's pretty straightforward. We want to understand as much as you want to share about your business. And again, these can be completely private projects. So if you're very early stage or you're about to go through a rebrand because of an acquisition or something that you don't, want out in the news just yet, we've been keeping projects secret for 12 years now. So it's one of our strengths where, you can give us the information about your business and we'll go out and create the designs. And there's no risk for two reasons. One, you have the guarantee to fall back on. And two, you're going to get dozens of different designs. And some of them, you're really going to like, some you might not. You have dozens to choose from. These are completely custom. These aren't illustrations, they're full color. And you work with those designers to then fine tune them. So once those designs come back, you might say, oh, I forgot to tell you, I really don't like, this style or this color. No problem. They go back and they make those changes. So we make it really simple to give and receive feedback on the designs.
I think one of the other things that I found valuable is that you own the design at the end of the project as well. So when you make your decision and the fees get paid and all of that, the designer or the creative sends you the design, so you have the file, right? Which,
even more important, you own the intellectual property for that design.
Right.
You're not renting it from the creative. The creative is creating something completely custom, so they actually can provide you the intellectual property for this. It's not owned by somebody else. And we take this very seriously. So our creative team is continuously monitoring entries, and we have a zero tolerance policy for, trying to rip off the Disney font or the Uber, or Nike swoosh. You don't get to incorporate those elements in to the logo. We're going to make sure that we're staying on top of this, so that when a client does receive the design, they're getting all of the files that they need, and it's completely custom.
Okay, so let's there's all kinds of cool stuff built into the way it works. You mentioned a bunch of them now. I forgot about the intellectual property, but the NDA and just everything. The owner, it's just very tight. It's very tight. You know exactly what you're getting into from the beginning. I wanted to shift gears for the rest of the time we have to talk about this brand review or identity grader program that you're offering folks. Could you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. So for 12 years, we've been doing custom content and, very long form. Like I mentioned, this brand identity guide is 22,000 words. We spend an awful lot of time, creating content that resonates to educate on custom branding. And so this year we decided, let's try making it a little bit more custom. Instead of talking about brand identity as a whole, let's talk specifically to certain businesses on their challenges. And so we started these screencast video reviews where I take a website and it's completely private. It's just between us two. It doesn't get uploaded to YouTube. And I walk through and give voice to what your clients are likely thinking. And this is based on an understanding of design, a short understanding of your business from what I can gather there. And so what these typically look like is, we start from the top and go down. And so in the top, what you're going to find is, I'm going to talk about the logo a little bit, so, what is the logo telling me? Does it look like something that's custom, or does it look like something that, was created on your own or for free in a generator? And the problem with that, people think, well, who cares? You only get one chance to make a first impression. And so what's happening is I'm giving voice to what clients are thinking intuitively and very quickly. People are looking at your website and making split-second decision that they can't even articulate why they're feeling a mistrust. That's really what it comes down to, is a mistrust that you can deliver on what you're talking about to your clients. And so we start with the logo, and we talk, the problem with a cheap logo is it says you're not investing in your business. And so why should a customer invest in your business? You must not care enough about your business. Maybe you're not going to be there in a year. Why should the customer, take a chance on you with their time and money if you don't, invest enough to think that you're going to be there for a long term? And I always tell businesses, I said, this sounds terribly unfair. This is a harsh judgment because, but it's probably not how you're running your business. You probably are spending a lot of time in perfecting your service and your offering and being innovative and unique, but the visual branding isn't telling that same story. It's telling a story that either you're outdated or you're not investing enough time. And so we walk through the site. There's a lot of different things. It's not just about the logo. It's about the graphics that you choose to use. We all know what stock photos look like, right? We can pick them out of a lineup very easily. And we know what custom illustrations look like because we see those on the companies that invest in their brands. And so when we're looking down a website and we see somebody choose to use a stock photo, we intuitively know that the business had a choice. The business could have went with a custom graphic, or they could have went with a stock photo, and they chose a stock photo. And we're asking ourselves, why? Is it because they can't afford it? Well, then, maybe this business isn't as successful as they're trying to portray themselves. Is it because they don't care? Why do they not care? Do they not care to communicate to me in a strong way? Custom graphics do two things. Custom graphics communicate something very clearly. They were designed to communicate one message. That's why they were created. They were created with an intent and a purpose. Stock photos do just the opposite. Stock photos create a kind of nebulous, you pick the direction for what you want this photo to interpret. And so that's the first, is that they're very clear in their message. So we don't have to spend any time as a consumer or a client understanding what this business is trying to say. We don't have to guess. The other thing that they do is they show you're committed to your business. They show that you are looking to communicate clearly and you're around for a while. And because of this democratization of design, because of Crowdspring, we're talking about a minor investment. I mean, we're talking about a couple $100s here, where that can easily be paid from one to two clients in most cases. It's not a big investment anymore where it's thousands of dollars. It's something pretty straightforward. Sure. So I do these reviews. So this is the type of stuff that we pull out. We look for a clear call to action. What is a business trying? What do they want the visitor to do next? Is that clear? I'll be very honest when I'm reviewing it. A lot of times with sites, I'll look at them for several minutes and I'm like, I still don't understand what you do. And it's not because it's not communicated there. If I took the time and I read every letter, and thought about it, then yes, I could understand, but we don't do that. We scan, we skim, and we review very quickly. And so all I'm doing in these reviews is giving a voice to what consumers are already thinking. And I'm walking through a little bit slower and saying, hey, take a step back and think about this decision within this visual brand. So yeah, it's been really exciting. The feedback has been very positive from folks who never took the time to think about it. Like that this might be causing an issue in either their client growth or their ability to charge more for their current clients. So no matter where they're at in their business life cycle.
So someone that wants to engage with you on this review, what do they need to do, Jason?
So I would reach out to me directly. The quickest way to communicate over the air here is just my email. So jason@crowdspring.com, and email me your link to your business, to your website. And I will, over the next couple of days after I receive that, send you a private video. It's a few minutes long and it'll walk through your site. So it's very custom. And jason@crowdspring.com.
Okay. So someone sends you that, and then you actually do the analysis, create a video of it, and then engage with them and sort of walk them through it.
So I create the video of the walkthrough and send them the email, and they can take that and go where they want with that. I mean, okay. So it's not, they don't have to use Crowdspring. They can use that internally with their marketing team. They can go find a different solution. But Yeah, so it's just providing the ideas and the thoughts. They're free to disagree, with the conclusion. This is based on our understanding of branding and the 65,000 businesses we've worked in every industry. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no cost to that?
No cost.
No cost.
Nope. It's our commitment to education. I mean, it's what we've been doing with our long form, blog education and ebooks that we've created. It's in the same vein, but we just wanted to make it a little bit more custom to the businesses who are looking to get some insight.
Okay. Well, it couldn't be easier than that. Jason at crowdspring.com. Send a link to your website, and you'll get a video back with his professional feedback on where you're at. Maybe you're doing fantastic, and otherwise, and
I definitely point out where you're doing well. So there's some sites where I pull them up, I'm just blown away. I'm like, wow, this is really good. So some of the feedback is, keep doing this, or keep doing this more, throughout the site. So yeah, it's not all about improvements. Although we do try and find areas where we can improve, because that's how we grow our businesses.
Sure, of course. All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I really appreciate the work that Crowdspring is doing. I'm maybe more than appreciate it. I'm blown away actually by the work that Crowdspring is doing. So thanks for coming on and sharing a lot more information about Crowdspring with everybody. Again, if you want a free analysis of your website, Jason at crowdspring.com, send him an email with the link, and you'll get some actionable information that you can use to improve not only the design of your business, but your business itself, the growth of your business, profitability of your business, lead generation of your business, and all other kinds of things.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. It was great to be here.
Thank you for listening to the Working Without Waste podcast. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe to the podcast on our website at www.ercmidwest.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also be grateful if you'd rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps other people find us and gets the show's value into more people's ears.